everybody questions everything when you start a business. Everyone's like, that doesn't look good, or like, you're going to get questioned and you're going to fail, but the failure is good because you're going to keep learning. And so if you feel passionate about something, then give it a shot, because what's the worst that can happen? I mean, you might fail, but you just get yourself back up and learn from it, and then come back even stronger. And
Hello and welcome to At the Podium with me, Patrick Huey. At the Podium is a multimedia platform that brings together people from a diverse background of lives, careers, and experiences who all share one thing in common. They have stepped fully into the transformative power of saying yes to the unexpected turns of their lives. And they are now using the power of their voice, or podium, to make an impact on the world we live in today. At the Podium is the intersection of art, culture, and big thoughts wrapped up in good old-fashioned conversation. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome to the podium Hugh Huffaker. Hugh Huffaker is the founder and mastermind of a CBD spa product line called Cause+Medic, which was ranked in 2020 as top CBD skincare brand of 2020 by Organic Spa magazine. Cause+Medic also holds patents on its micro-encapsulation process for increasing the solubility of CBD through the skin. Hugh is also the founder of a cleaning and disinfectant line called Clean Republic, which is registered with the EPA to kill COVID and was awarded the lowest rating of toxicity available for an EPA hospital-grade disinfectant. And if he wasn't busy enough running two brands, he also owns his own spa in the beautiful mountain town of Bueno Vista, Colorado. A serial entrepreneur and inventor who lives in Boulder, Colorado with his wife, Topsy, Hugh is an avid rock climber, outdoorsman, and jazz musician who has made environmentally responsible and healthy products a way of life. Okay, Hugh, welcome to At the Podium.
Patrick, it's a pleasure to be here. Really, really excited to do this with you.
Okay, Hugh, after all of that, after owning two businesses, opening your own spa, I can say that you were truly a Renaissance man. What can't you do?
I try. I don't know if I do anything really well, but it's about trying, right?
No, I would say you're doing it, Hugh. Okay, now that I have you here, I want you to put into context this whole CBD craze that seems to have taken over the world. I want to know why it works, how it works. Are there long-term implications, long-term dangers perhaps that we're not even aware of right now? And what is the difference between CBD and marijuana and hemp? Okay, go.
Yeah. So, I sort of stumbled into this industry just a little bit. I used to always get in trouble with my parents in high school for smoking pot. I grew up in Tennessee, and so it was, in a pretty conservative home. And so, it's funny because I definitely got busted a lot in high school for that. And then, years down the road, my mom got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And, it was really hard to watch her, slowly. She didn't have the really fast acting kind. She had the kind that just started to slowly degrade away. And the worst part for her were these leg spasms that she had every night, like around 5 or 6 o'clock every night. And so, she was on all these muscle relaxers, and they weren't working, one. And then two, it was changing my mom's personality to where she just seemed to be out of it a little bit. And it was just really weird for my little brother, sister, and I to see that. And so, I'm just like, I'm an avid reader. And so I was just, going online and reading as much as I could on, all sorts of alternative treatments. And one thing that had kind of popped up, and at the time it wasn't very much in the forefront, was the endocannabinoid system's interaction with multiple sclerosis. And the endocannabinoid system is a system of your body, but everyone knows, has heard of CBD, but it's what CBD binds to when it's taken into the body. And so I thought, well, I wonder if this could help out at all. And so I went out and bought all of the CBD topicals I could, because my mom was, she was so conservative. She wouldn't even think about like ingesting anything. And for some reason, the topicals felt a little less intrusive for her, and they didn't work at all. And I finally talked my mom into trying a tincture, which is just an ingestible, and it actually started to suppress the spasms, and almost immediately. And at that point, I thought, wow, this is really crazy how fast this worked. And two, why didn't the topical work?
Mm.
And that's sort of how I just kind of stumbled my way into the industry. I didn't really have any plans on going into the CBD industry at all, but like you said, I in the introduction, that I really love and I've always tried to live my life by is just saying the word yes and keeping an open heart.
Yes.
And if you do that, then it's really crazy where life will take you. Have you ever seen Yes Theory on YouTube before?
I haven't heard of him. Tell me about it.
So Yes Theory is these guys who are around my age, and they decided to just say yes to everything. And so, things that you think were not possible, they're like, let's go out and try this. And I think a good example would be they just dial random phone numbers, and someone picks up the phone and they're like, "Hi, we'd love to travel to wherever you are and come meet you and hang out with you for a day." Or things like one guy had never skydived before and he did a halo jump, and someone had never learned how to backflip and he learned how to backflip. And so the whole thing is just them saying yes to life. And I think it's just really awesome, because so many people they're scared of failure, or they just don't keep an open heart to go out, have new experiences, meet new people. And that's what really guides my life, is just kind of being a little gypsy and jumping around in that sense. And I know I didn't even answer your question of the difference between CBD and hemp, so I can answer, or CBD and THC. But hemp is legal in all 50 states. It used to be the #1 cash crop in the United States until it was banned. I think it was in the 1920s or 1930s by some really bad propaganda. And so THC and marijuana is slightly different than hemp. That's illegal unless you're in Colorado or a few other states. And then hemp is just where you extract a lot of CBD from. So it's legal, and hemp sort of is paving the way to national legalization of cannabis. I think a lot of people are getting a lot of really huge benefits from hemp. And we're really starting to question why were these plants made illegal in the first place.
I'm actually I'm actually really touched by the story about your mom and what your mom was going through. And I know that when something goes wrong with your mom, that it really can get you to the core, because the moms are the center of it. They're the center of it for most of us. And so I wonder what you thought your life was going to look like, or what you thought your life was going to be before you went on this quest to help your mom find relief from her spasms.
It's interesting. I mean, when I went to college, I thought I wanted like get a degree in jazz guitar. And so went to school for music at the University of Tennessee and started out there. And then I remember just kind of like panicking one day of what am I gonna do with a degree in jazz guitar. Like I'm still not sure of what I would have done. And so I went out and I met this guy who's like a successful businessman, and asked him if he would be my mentor. And he would say, what do you want to do? And I'd say, I don't know. I know I want to work for myself and create, regardless of what that is. I need to be able to use both sides of my brain. And so he kind of told me something crazy and goes, you should get a degree in accounting. and go work for a CPA firm, one of the big CPA firms, for a little while to cut your teeth. Because most creatives who become entrepreneurs, like they have that passion, they've got the vision, but they just don't understand the inner workings of the business. And so it's some of the best advice I've ever gotten, best and worst, I guess. And so I got a degree in accounting and actually worked for one of the really large CPA firms. If you can imagine me working at a CPA firm, it was really, really hard. They kind of work you to the bone when you're right out of school, but it was a really good experience. And so, after cutting my teeth, I just started trying things. And, we built an app that was for the alcohol industry and had some success with that, and I was able to sell that and make a little bit of money to position myself to be able to start a company, another company. And so that I just knew I needed to be an entrepreneur. And like we were just talking about, I just sort of had to listen, and you have to figure out a problem and then identify the problem. After you identify it, you just figure out how you can solve that issue. And so that's essentially what I just keep an open mind everywhere I go to think, hey, is this a problem? Do I need to, is there something I can do about this?
Do you think if we really look at Cause+Medic and we look at Teen Republic, they're both incredibly successful lines in a world that's not that easy to penetrate and to get involved in? I mean, you really sort of walked into the spa product world, the spa industry world, and really kind of burst open those doors. And how do you think you did that? Do you think that was just the passion that got you through? How did you really establish yourself in this industry and really have the kind of success that you're currently experiencing?
It was really weird. Like the first time that you and I met was at Live Love Spa.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent like a year and a half or 2 years working on different formulations. I was trying to learn about the spa industry. And so, would like walk into spas and try to like make friends with people, not to sell them anything, but just to find out about the spa industry. And so you and I met at, I think it was my second spa convention I'd ever been to. And so, I we went to the spa conventions, and I was like, I'm just going to just see what happens. Really, I didn't really have a ton of experience at all. It was really nerve wracking just to go. And a lot of people in the spa industry have like come from skincare or they come from spa. I wasn't really that way, so I was just thinking, I'm just going to be myself. I'm not going to try to be anybody else or try to emulate any other company that's out there, and see what happens. And so, I think people appreciate when they can tell that you're being genuine, putting yourself out there, even if it's, not the status quo, or, I'm not maybe your classic skincare guy that you see. And I think people really, really took to that. And the really beautiful thing about the spa industry that I didn't even realize when we were getting into it is just the level of care that people actually have for keeping their staff safe or for helping their customers is unbelievable. And just, trying to help the environment. And I think that all of our ideals just really aligned with the spa industry. And I just got really lucky to find a place where I feel like I really fit in with the culture. And I think that's a huge part of, being able to get in pretty quickly. And I think, I don't know, when I was still a newbie when we met. I mean, what did anything stand out for you, or from your perspective?
Well, I remember walking into that event and I was like, why are all those women standing at that table over there? I've never seen spa directors so excited to see somebody standing at a booth. So I was like, I got to find out, who is it? What's going on? Everybody seems so excited right now. And after being able to spend time with you over the past few years, it's something that happens quite often. So it's a gift. It's a gift to really be able to pull people into you and have them take an interest in what you're doing.
Well, what people said, like, you came up to my table and it was really funny. And I remember you left, and I was talking to the person next to me, the vendor, And I was like, oh man, Patrick was really cool. What a nice guy. And he was like, that's Patrick Huey, right? And I was like, I don't know Patrick Huey. And they're like, he's the man in spa. And I was like, oh, I need to remember that name. Yeah. Like that you didn't come up like even though you are like the one of like the top most well-known people in spa, and like didn't judge me, because we had a lot of issues in cosmetic when we first launched. Like the brand didn't look that great, the product line was pretty small, and like you were still really really nice and outgoing to me. And so I've always really appreciated that when people are like that.
I remember saying to you that I thought the product was really quality and had something special, and that I would bring it in once you have the packaging worked out, which we did end up doing. We did bring you in once you did get the packaging together. But I think also that, you had something special that I could maybe describe as like the magic dust, the it factor. But it wasn't just that, it was that you also had a really quality product, and you had the science behind that, and you have the quality and the production and the manufacturing of the product that really made it and makes it, really a strong product to carry in your business. And it wasn't just like, poof, you showed up. I mean, you went to school, you got a music degree, you got an accounting degree, you went and worked in an accounting firm. You really did put in the work to support the success that you're having now. And I think that's important for people to hear, because sometimes we get very caught up in the sort of shiny object syndrome. Something's new, someone's new, they're appealing, their product's appealing, but there's a whole world that's going on underneath that to get to that point.
It's a learning process when you start a company. My first company, we made lots of mistakes, and it wasn't as successful as I wanted it to be, by any means. And so it's just like taking those experiences and really learning from it, I think, and partnering up with really good people too, because I'm kind of like the outgoing guy who's going to try to make friends with everybody. And so partnering up with someone who's got a PhD in biochemistry to really make sure that the product works as good as possible. So you've got like kind of like the love on one side and the science on the other side. And so the best restaurants you go to, there's a lot of love put into everything. And so I think we sort of put that same love into the product while still having the good science base in all of our products.
Very true. Very true. Okay, you said something interesting, that in your first company, when you started your first company, you made some mistakes. And I'm wondering, what were those mistakes and how you were able to learn from those mistakes and correct those mistakes when you started Cosmetic, which has had a meteoric rise, and how you were able to perhaps pivot, for lack of a better word, based upon what you had learned in your first company.
Yeah, I think the biggest, I mean, aside from like the day-to-day things, like just learning about how to benefits and all of the stuff that comes from like having employees, and being able to manage people and keeping employees happy, that's a huge learning process. But I'd say the biggest thing was we took on investment really early in my first company. We went to took money from a venture fund, and all of a sudden I felt like I wasn't working for myself anymore. And you kind of feel like you're working for the man, I guess you would say. And that sort of pulled the creativity out for me. And so for round two with Cosmetic, I said, we're going to do this grassroots. And so let's like build it slow and build it right, and let it grow on its own, and only have the main people as the investors. And so for the first few months, we were out shipping out of this like tiny shipping container, and I was shipping out of my house sometimes. And so I was doing sales, I was doing shipping, I was doing customer service, and I think that was just a really great way to build a company, because you don't want to grow too fast. Like look what happened to WeWork. You get all of this money and you have all this money to spend, and a lot of times you just spend it frivolously and you don't really think about the things that do matter for the company. And so we did it. We only put money where we really needed to, like on product development and to make sure the product was good. And then everything else was just like pure hustle. And so learned how to sell the product, learn the industry. And one thing I forget who told me this in the spa industry, but it might have been like Boldajar, or it's another CE. I think it was Boldajar, but he said, he probably doesn't even remember this because I just kind of walked up to him and was like, "Hi, Boldajar, I've heard of you." And he said, he's like, "Me and my brother, we were driving around the US together, sleeping in the same bed in a hotel room for the first 3 years of our brand." And he's like, you need to meet everybody. When people think of cosmetic, they're going to think of you before you send any salespeople out. And then when you think of Eminence, you think of Voltaire.
Yes. Yes.
So I took it to heart and was just a road warrior for 2.5 years, where I was traveling 4 or 5 days every week.
So when did you know? When did you know that the moment had come? You had your foot in the door. When did you know that this was going to be a go, that cosmetic was going to be a thing that could sustain itself in the industry?
I would say the first moment, there's been a couple of like really big moments for us, but I would say the biggest one was after our first spa show. We had no idea what was going to happen, and we actually picked up 5 spas after the show. And I thought, we have a little bit of proof of concept just with like those small wins for us. That was just really, really awesome. And then we were selling online, and our pain cream just started just flying off the shelves. And then all of these reviews started coming in from people saying, my grandma has neuropathy, or arthritis, or I was in a car crash. This is literally the only CBD product that's ever helped me. And that's when we knew that the pain cream was something really special. And we spent a lot of time on it, and that's the pain. We really built the company on pain cream, and now we have some really great other products as well. But I mean, even after all this time, people still just freak out about the pain cream. And that's sort of when I knew we were onto something. And there's been some luxury spas that I never thought that we would be able to get into, such as, Montage. And so for me, like, getting into the Montage was just a huge, like, people would go, "Oh my gosh, you're in Montage." Like, we've tried to get in Montage for a decade. And so there's like these wins that you have in your business that you just have to latch onto, because so much stress in the day-to-day just growing a business, that you've got to just really hold on to those good days and stay positive.
When did Clean Republic come into the picture? Because you were having such great success with cosmetic. The product was moving like gangbusters. You were getting great accounts. So when did you think to bring in Clean Republic? Because your timeline was unbelievable. I mean, I've been in this business for almost, well, now 2 decades, and I've seen product lines come and I've seen product lines go, but you were really able to really get your foot in the door and establish cosmetic, and then Clean Republic right on the heels of that, or not too far behind that. I mean, you've had great success with Clean Republic. I mean, the embracing of this by the NFL and the great ratings from the EPA. I mean, that this is fantastic.
That was something where it was, just keep your heart open, really. And it's a really, really weird story how this happened. And everyone thought I was insane. Like, my parents thought I was crazy, all my friends thought I was crazy. But I met this guy trail running in Denver one day, and we were just kind of talking. We both had our dogs with us. We were like throwing our sticks in the water for the dogs. And he asked me what I did, and I told him. And I'd mentioned that we had invested in a farm in Tennessee for growing hemp. And so, because we wanted to really be a farm to bottle skincare company. And he was like, "Oh, that's cool. Hey, let's let's grab a coffee sometime. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And so, we went out, we grabbed a coffee, and he asked me if I'd ever had powdery mildew on the plants. And I said, yeah, absolutely. In Tennessee, you get powdery mildew. There's not a good way to get rid of powdery mildew. It's without using really toxic chemicals. And he goes, well, there's this stuff called hypochlorous acid that, I think could be a really powerful oxidizer for plants. And I said, all right, that sounds really interesting. He goes, it's made with only water, salt, and electricity. And I was like, okay, well, now I'm really interested. And he goes, and it's made by your immune system. It's the white blood cells actually produce it. It's an infection fighting compound. And so, I said, this really fits in with the whole cosmetic thing going on. So yeah, let's give it a try. And so, literally like 2 weeks later, I was business partners with a guy I just met who has since come to be my best friend. Everyone thought I was insane going into like an ag pesticide. And so we spray it on the plants, and then boom, powdery mildew just gone. Like it just evaporates off the plant. And not only that, but the plants started growing bigger because it was creating an immune system response in the plants. And so, we started a company called Plant Aid together that was for the agriculture industry. And so we sell to the wine industry, citrus, cannabis, tomato, like we touch a lot of different industries. And while this was happening, we started sending it to a lab to test it out for, what else can this do? And it came back about 200 times stronger than bleach at killing, viruses and bacteria. But yet at the same time, it's made with water, salt, and electricity. Like here's a little sample size of this. And, if you do that with bleach, you're going to be in a world of pain. And so, I start talking to spa directors, and I'm like, hey, what are you using to clean? And they're all using quaternary ammonium, which is horrendous for the environment. And so I thought, why are spas using this? And when I go to a spa, or like, I'm sure when someone comes to you with the skincare line, you probably look at the ingredients, right? Like very carefully. And spas are like, what's this? But yet at the same time, we're spraying these really dangerous chemicals with our employees around all day. And so we went out and got an EPA registration as a disinfectant, which took a very long time. It was a ton of effort. And 2 months later, COVID hit. And so timing was just really fortunate. I mean, we thought this was just going to be a product that we would sell to spa and hospitality just because I was connected in that industry and thought it would fit perfectly. And then within a month or two after really launching, we were selling to the NFL. We were selling to these like just crazy, Fortune 100 companies, like just overnight, because they saw the writing on the wall of, this is going to be really dangerous for us to be disinfecting unless we use a product that, we can feel comfortable around, because there's a real risk of injury if we're going to use these products. And I think the timing was just right, and we got really lucky. But luck was a big part of it, but I also think it's about, keeping your heart open. And I just had this feeling, it all made sense. And, being a business partner with a stranger in 2 weeks isn't the greatest idea, but sometimes you just have to try it, I think. See what happens, learn from it.
So if a person is about to graduate from college, or they're about to graduate from a business school, an MBA program, and here you are, a businessman, you're very successful, you're running 2 businesses, and now you're running your own spa, which I was like, Hugh has gone insane. That is so much work. Hugh has lost his mind.
I know, it's out of control.
So what would you say to that person who's graduating? What would you say to them? They're sitting in the seats, they have on their cap, and they have on their gown, and they have the shiny new diploma, and they're about to step into the world. What would you say to them?
I would say, don't be afraid of failure. I know that's sort of cliche, but all of us fail. And you're gonna think that like your friends think you're like an idiot for failing or starting a stupid business, or your family is disappointed. in you, or, everybody questions everything when you start a business. Everyone's like, that doesn't look good, or like, you're going to get questioned and you're going to fail, but the failure is good because you're going to keep learning. And so, you're only young once. And so if you're coming out of school, maybe try to get a little bit of real life experience, or get a really good mentor as well who's had that experience. And if you feel passionate about something, then give it a shot, because what's the worst that can happen? I mean, you might fail, but you just get yourself back up and learn from it, and then come back even stronger. And if you think people are going to be laughing at you for failing, it's actually not true. Whenever you talk to someone who's working for maybe a let's say they're in like the cubicle life, the classic cubicle life, they'll say, it's I've always wanted to start something. It's amazing how many people come up to you and tell you, I've always wanted to start something, but I can't. Like, I've got a wife, or I've got a kid, and they feel like they can't take that risk. But I think you can always go out and take that risk. Or you can do the millennial hustle too. You can just work nights and try to get that hustle going on. So if you work hard, if you're passionate about it, and if you're don't be like the shady salesman who just says what people want to hear, or be the person you think people want you to be. Just be yourself, and people will respond to that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, I have one last question. So, who has been the person for you in your life? And you talked about the gentleman who, advised you to get your degree in accounting. Besides him, who has been the person in your life who's really been a mentor to you, or an inspiration to you in your career?
I would probably say, do you know Tim Ferriss, the author?
Mm-mm.
So Tim Ferriss is he wrote a few books, but my favorite book is, he wrote this book called A Tribe of Mentors. And he has a podcast where he just interviews really high performing individuals, whether they're pro athletes or business people or philanthropists, anyone who's just performing at a high level. He just goes and interviews them. But the thing that really interests me is the way that he interviews people. It's really unique. He'll be like, what do you do in the morning? Do you ever take a cold shower? Do you write a to-do list? Do you start out your day with doing the hardest thing or the easiest thing so you can check it off the box? And so he just has this massive book of really successful people and their rituals. And when you read the book, you start to see all of these patterns pop up that can make your life a lot easier. And keep your stress down as well, because a lot of them are about health. And so I noticed that people are, using cold water therapy a lot. So I went and learned like the Wim Hof method and started using like cold showers and cold water therapy. And then, a lot of people are doing intermittent fasting, and keeping carbs down really low. And so I tried that out, and my body responded to it really amazing. And my energy levels are through the roof, like all day. And so I think it's like little things like that, is, reading what other people are doing, and then go out and test it and see if it works for you. It's like, everything's not going to work for everybody, but there's some things as humans that we're all going to be able to relate to. Like, what about you? Do you have a morning routine, or do you have anything that you live by for you to be successful?
Um, yeah, I read a lot. I read a lot. I'll read anything. I was recently reading a book called Inclusify, which helps people think about in business how to create a diverse and equitable work environment. I just read Harper Lee's new book, Go Set a Watchman, which is a complicated book, especially when you take a figure like Atticus Finch and then kind of invert him to what we thought he was. I read Becoming by Michelle Obama. So, reading's really, really important to me. I also love to read because it improves your vocabulary. I'm always looking up words to see what they mean or how they're being used. And I also think it makes you a better writer, and I think it's important particularly now when we're taking writing out of schools, and it's so important that people know how to write, to express in the exact precise way what they want to say. So I think reading is really, really important for me, at least.
It's interesting you say reading, because when I was reading that Tim Ferriss book, that is a pattern that you see emerge with almost all of these guys. Like, some read a book a day, which is insane. Like, these guys are CEOs of Fortune 100 companies, but they find time to read a book every day or every other day. And like, that is wild to think about. Like, you wouldn't ever think that they would have time for that, but it trains your mind to not be so hyperactive and respond to all of this, like, everything, your phone's going on everywhere. Like, I'm guilty of that as well. So reading is really important, I think, and I've tried to read more over the past few years as well, and it helps me out. Would you say that, I remember us going out to lunch in California, and we were talking about saxophone, and this was pre-COVID, and you were telling me, yeah, I've really wanted to like start playing sax again. I haven't picked it up in a while. And then obviously anybody who follows you on Instagram over the past year has seen like your sax playing just get really phenomenal, like with the tone and everything like that. Have you found that playing music is been a really nice outlet too?
It has been, and I've actually started taking lessons virtually with this gentleman who lives in New York. He teaches at NYU, and it's really been wonderful to be a student again, and to be instructed, and to move myself out of my comfort zones. We're doing this thing now where he's like, just pick up the horn and play notes, start on a G and just play and see what happens. And I'm so like, I don't want to fail. I don't want to make a mistake. And he's like, that doesn't matter. Pick up and just play. And that lesson is great for life, because we all sort of get stuck in what we think we should or shouldn't be doing, or how it needs to go. And he's like, no, just play. And 9 times out of 10, it's wonderful. It's better than what I could have sat down and sort of tried to learn by reading music. So yeah, it's been great to be playing my sax and being a student again.
I remember my first jazz gig that I had. I was really, it actually ended up being a pretty big gig, because we were opening up for someone who was pretty well known, this German guitarist. And we sort of finagled our way into opening up, because I just like reached out and I was like, hey, we really want to open up for you. And I was walking out when I had some sheet music in my hand in front of the crowd. It was probably like 200 people maybe. And I had the binder turned upside down, and all of my sheet music fell out in front of everyone, like literally just everywhere. And the whole crowd was laughing, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. But the gig ended up going really well, and I felt so good after it. But oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing. But I think the thing I like about music is, when college ends, we sort of stop learning. And I feel like learning is an art, and our brain will lose the ability to learn if you don't keep it exercised, really. And so that's the great thing about music for me is, I'm constantly learning, and it's keeping my brain with that, because we don't have to study for tests anymore. We don't have to like really learn. And so that's music is my way to keep learning. And music and YouTube, really.
Yeah, I mean, I love YouTube. Hours on YouTube. It's a total addiction. I just get caught in those loops, and then I'm in it for like hours. Thank you so much for your time today, and just coming here and having a really inspiring conversation. Story about your mom really touched me and moved me, and just your willingness to be open and transparent with us. So thank you for that. And to those of you who are watching or listening, remember, we all have a voice. Use yours wisely. Bye, everyone. Thank you, Hugh.
Thanks.